Good afternoon. A few months ago, I found myself in the waiting room of an Israeli hospital in Jerusalem. I had brought a Bedouin boy, young boy, just 9 years old, for a serious surgery, the amputation of a leg, and we were all aware that he was risking his life. The tension in the waiting room for hours and hours, it was almost unbearable. So when the nurse finally came up and called out the name of the family, we just jumped on our feet and rushed to her. And she looked at us, obviously astonished, and asked, "Excuse me, what is your relation to the patient?" And only then I realized the weird kind of group we were. At my right hand, the parents of the kid, belonging to a very conservative Islamic movement. On the other side, an American Israeli rabbi, a peace activist and a close friend to all of us, and a Catholic sister in the middle. So the father saved the situation and said, "This is my family." What? Yeah, whoever stands in with me for hours and hours while my child is suffering, this is my family. And this is our experience. I come from a land most of us called Holy, where generations and generations of believers visit from every corner of the world to gain faith, strength, and a purpose to their lives. The land I come from, the land of the promise, is rich with ancient traditions, with historical sites, but it is also the witness of bloodshed, violence, and hatred from ancient times to our days. The garden of our convent on the Mount of Olives in East Jerusalem has been crossed by the separation wall. Some people call it the protection wall, some other people call it the apartheid wall. The fact is this wall has separated us, like many other thousands of people around us, from our friends, from our jobs, and from the small Christian community we belong to. The experience of living in the shadow of this wall has stirred up in us the impelling need of getting through, of reaching out to the peoples of this land, the wonderful peoples of this land. And we have learned that we are used to build walls in our lives, in our hearts, in our families, in our cities. We look at this wall as a wound, as a long, deep, painful scar, separating not only the land, but also the lives of people condemned to live far from each other in fear and suspect. So most of my life and my work in Jerusalem, whether among Bedouins in the West Bank, African asylum seekers in Tel Aviv, among local and international organizations, is about building bridges. We heard already this word this morning, building bridges. Trying to use every crack in this wall to shed light upon the other side. And to create this safe space where people can encounter on a safe ground. And now the question, is religion this safe ground? Is it a hindrance or a source of peace and reconciliation? Is not religion behind every fundamentalism, or it is a source of strength? Is not behind hatred and war? Is not responsible for suffering in the Middle East? These are serious questions we are challenged with, and we have to face them with honesty and boldness. In a multicultural, multi-religious society, it is very common to hear volunteers and activists telling us and challenging us in this way, well, just leave religion aside. Let's work on human rights, on natural law, on international universal values. Religion always confuses and creates division. I can't agree with that. I see and I experience faith as an enormous and never-ending source of inner strength and higher values. And it has really a power of bringing us together. In a multicultural, multi-religious society, dialogue, deepening in our own religious identity and sharing it out with others may help us to bring and strengthen harmony. And we really need this harmony in our lives. I will just illustrate this last point with a personal story, an experience working as a volunteer nurse. I am a nurse. With Physicians for Human Rights, a group of Israeli doctors. Among many other things, they visit Palestinian villages. So this happened to me in the mobile clinic while working with a gynecologist. We visited a woman, and apart her medical problems, it was clear that she was suffering, very sad and depressed. And towards the end of the visit, the doctor noticed that she had a very particular necklace with the face of a young man carved on it. So he asked, is he your son? So she said, yeah, he's the one who was killed in the second Intifada, as well as this other one. And he showed us the face of a youngish boy, just a teenager. So she said the two of them were killed within the same week. And he entered in great detail to describe to us how this event, this tragedy, has blown apart the life of her family. So there was a moment of silence and almost embarrassment. And then the doctor asked me to translate for him. So he told me, please tell this woman that I'm so sorry, really so sorry, and that I understand very well her suffering. I know exactly how she feels, because also my brother was killed in the second Intifada. So the woman made this gesture, which whoever has been in the Middle East can recognize as a gesture of surrender to God. And the doctor reacted and told me, no, please tell her that I think that God, I'm afraid that God has not much to do with all this suffering. It's up to us. God has created this beautiful land. He has given it to us, entrusted it to us, and now it is up to us to take care of each other. We have to leave, the three of us, we have to leave today from here as different persons. Please tell this woman that this Israeli doctor, this Palestinian mother, and this Catholic sister, they have to leave this room convinced that this tragedy should never, never happen again. And we will commit our lives for this to become true. This is it. Our call is about bringing unity in diversity and putting all ourselves, our work, our prayer, our relationships, our faith, if we have one, to the service of healing wounds of division. That's why I am surprised when I find that some countries, and especially Western countries, when they're facing the challenge of multicultural, multi-religious societies, they respond by canceling any external sign of religion from public life, as if the problem doesn't exist. The difference doesn't exist. Well, we didn't invent history this morning, and I think it is quite evident the impact and the significance of religions in the fabric of societies and cultures, any religion and any society. So maybe instead of clicking delete on our history and our past and opening a new file called New Future or Global World or whatever, maybe instead of starting from afresh, we should just click search on our deep traditions, on our faith, whether we are believers or not, just to learn from the values that are behind the great achievements of humanity, which were always based on love, dedication, hard work, solidarity, forgiveness. These are the key words. These are the passwords. And we know them. We don't have to invent them. They are already written in our holy books. So I wish we could all embrace these common values for a common future and strip them off from any nationalism, fundamentalism, sectarian interest, power struggle, because these are the hackers of society. These are the enemies of every religion. So in this multicultural society, it is so important to work on peace and justice. Peace and justice together, not one without the other. It's very common, especially in our context of conflict and tension, to find wonderful people, nice people, well-meaning people committed with interreligious activities, conferences and workshops, but they wouldn't mention the word justice. And there is no peace without justice, without equality, in dignity, in freedom, in rights among the partners. And if this theologic dialogue is very important, is at the base of mutual understanding, still is on daily basis that we live side by side. And it is in our daily life, in our daily problems, life, death, sickness, financial crisis, that we feel all the same. That's why in our experience as Comboniani sisters in the Holy Land, I feel that serving the poor and working with the weakest and most vulnerable people in society, it helps us to look in the same direction, to bring forward the best of ourselves and reach out to others. It's like restoring dignity. It not only lays the basis for a better future and brings us closer to each other, but it also makes us better persons as human beings and as believers. This is what I experience every year, especially every summer, when Palestinian Bedouins, Israeli volunteers, internationals, and also the sisters join together to prepare the summer camp for the Bedouin kids. It's not only about entertaining the kids, it's also about protecting the communities from displacement and their school from demolition. It is what I experience every year when the Israeli women of Mahsum Watch, they give us the chance to take a full bus of Bedouin children and cross all the barriers to fulfill their dream, to see the Mediterranean Sea, to have a day in the sea, the best day of the year. This is what I feel every time I hear this Bedouin father in distress telling his rabbi friend, "You are my family." And it may sound naive and effective to bring about real change, but I'm deeply convinced that these kind of gestures, day in, day out, they have an enormous power to transform society, at least to transform ourselves. Sometimes people ask me, how do you manage to keep hope? How can you keep working and smiling at the same time? I think there is much we can learn from simple people, and I have learned so much from my Bedouin friends. So much wisdom, so much patience. And I remember a moment of big distress, severe distress, where the army confiscated the swings and the slides of a kindergarten in a Bedouin camp. Ever since, the community, the parents, the leaders of the community have been pushing and pushing for us to buy new slides and new swings for the children. And every visit, every meeting with the community ended up in the same way, in the same topic. So one day we were really overwhelmed by powerlessness and frustration. So we just faced the leader and told him, how can you keep thinking of the future? I mean, you are not afraid of demolition? You just received the order of displacement for the whole community. We don't know if we will be here next month or not. How can you keep making other projects? And he kept cool and looked at us, and obviously he was a bit surprised by our disbelief. And he said, calm. The prophet says, if the final day comes and you have a seed in your hand, plant it. The final day comes, but you have a seed in your hand, plant it. So that's it. This is for us. Look at your hands today, and let's stop grumbling how few we are, how powerless we feel, how terrible the situation looks like. Just look at your hands today. If by chance this afternoon you find a seed in your hands, please, please plant it. Thank you.